Bismillah Rahman Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. A'udhu Billah Shaitan Rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Rabbi Firli, my Lord, forgive me for all the sins I am conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. Okay. Hello, everyone. Officially welcome to the lecture. I mean, it was official from the beginning, but I just had to take care of something. So now I'm beginning it. My mind forged a very interesting title for today's lecture. But what I'm thinking about goes further than the title. The title is Laughing at Our Failures Like Jokes from from Another Life. Okay. And what I mean is that, I was, how do I say it? There's moments in my life where I ask myself, what do I have in my life? And there's two interesting answers that in the inner realms, I have everything I can imagine. But in the outer realms, life seems to be, moving in accordance to its own mind, the world, the world's mind, poetically, or God's will. So, you know, there's moments when I'm, just with myself, and in those moments, I think about the life I've lived, and I come to this conclusion that the past versions of me were hilarious. And so it's like, I don't know, this is the common thing. Usually they say, yo, man, love your past, but I'm saying, like, find the humor in how you inefficiently have been efficiently living. Everybody who's listening right now, in a couple years from now, you're gonna just any moment actually, if you've lived, you know, enough to have a past in this world, a conscious past. You look back at your life, you see the blind spots you had, which you don't anymore, and it's funny how you had them. When I was very young and I was shy and, you know, I was very quiet in my childhood. It's like I've had various opinions on this, but eventually I was like, okay, it had to happen. And so life was so intense for me when I was young. But now I understand its intensity, and I notice that in every fascinating moment, there is a sort of grounded reality. Okay. And what that means is where we are as human beings, this is where I'm a member of the human species, so are you. We have mouths and ears, and we have hands to, in some sense, build and update the system we were born in before we be. And so it's necessary sometimes to wonder about the greater values to reality. So when a person can laugh at their past, they have, in some sense, realized that that laughter is coming from a present value. It's kind of bizarre, but it's like we're this technology that hangs on to yesterday even though it's today, but while it's on in today, when it wonders why it's hanging on to yesterday, it's because it wants to comprehend how to go into the future. You see, there's one view that, like, life is kind of like it evolves, and there's like a portal, like revolutionary experience, whether it's like, let's say, I don't know, from an evolutionary lens, it's kind of like, okay, the creatures step out of water onto land. Like that was like a portal like experience. The portal was just horizontal. All right, folks, I'm going to bring the notepad here to speed this up. This episode might be slow, but it took a while, for the right person to pull the sword out of the stone. Okay. All right. Now, just to translate this sentence, like it's like when if I hadn't come up with this sentence and I was looking outside of it, it's like life has moved forward, and now you see what you were missing in the moments that you. What the hell is going on with this? Okay, in the moments that you failed. Okay, now I'm going to do an analysis here. Okay, let's go back to this. So, we're at the analysis part. Here, I would say the human being has an ability to outgrow how it used to hold the world in a certain type of meaning. The fact that reality is like we're in a changing, moving world rather than just a photograph means that it's like no one moment is the final value because it's a changing thing. Now, in the same way that a human being outgrows a t shirt, similarly, we outgrow our realities and also we outgrow their intensities. Now, you may think as a human being, you have a specific definition, but you are the past's potential through the present's future. Okay, so the human being is traveling through an an event called existence, its own movement in the world's movement is considered itself the world's movement. So the human being is traveling through an event called existence. Its own movement in the world's movement is a private relationship, and how the world moves it is a public relationship. So we have this creature that is capable of going through different experiences and archiving them to be inspired, and it stores them as subjective models that can be accessed later on. So do you know what that means? That means my body, like today is May 15. My body is not in May 14 anymore, right? May 14 came and finished. Yesterday came and finished, right? But it's like even though has no concern for what it was yesterday, right? Similarly, not similarly, holds on. So it's kind of like the body, it's like this the body is like this thing that like in a span of time, like a bell curve with different energy levels, kind of you start incapable, you become capable, becoming incapable again. So this creature is capable of going through different experiences, and it stores them as that can be accessed later on. So it stores them as subjective models. These subjective models can be activated by Now comes an interesting question. If you can instantly remember the past and your memories, how come you can't instantly access probabilities and subjective models to the future? You actually can, but civilization has not cared to, has not, civilization has not emphasized it enough. But, anyways, where I'm going with this is that as someone who's 33, which is around 12,000 days, I've kind of like logged in and out of this, you know, world room, world server. And I can confidently tell you that the system is designed so even if you're convinced that who you think you are now is what you think you are, it's not accurate. Okay, because your body is not the same. And since there's been an accumulation of an experiential expansion, you see, you may not be a conqueror and you might be a shy person, but your brain is a conqueror. And what it's doing is that it's trying to conquer reality through processing the information. You see, every human being is living some sort of life, and which means that they're caring for some sort of future. You see, yo, man, why are human beings irresponsible? I'll be like, it's not out of incapability; it's out of a bizarre choice. It's that the individual is overreacting to the fear of individual death, therefore thinking it's insignificant to contribute to the collective. I thought this weird, that why is it that all the shows are emphasizing on the heroes and not in the heroic civilization? You know what I mean? There was a scene in some of the, I don't know which one it was, but it was like one of the early Spider-Man movies. Maybe it was the first one or whatever, right? And there's a scene where he stops like this subway from falling from a bridge. You know what I mean? He's being a civil servant, right? And then he takes off the mask, and then everybody there kind of acknowledges, all right, man, you just saved our lives. Like, we don't need to tell people who you are. Wait, how come this is not showing? What? Hold on, guys. This whole time I thought the notes are showing. Just give me a second. There we go. So you actually can. Okay, anyways. So where am I going with this analysis? Okay. The human being is living an outer life where, since it's changing, time is treated like an arrow past to present to future. Okay. However, the human being is also living an inner life See, you're everybody's living an inner life, okay? And your inner life is not in time. Do you understand what I mean? That means your outer life, yes. Your outer life, like let's say that you have a mind in your body, okay? And the body's like associated to the life form, the mind is associated to the life force moving the life form, okay? Now, let's just for a moment consider that you um when we look at them, okay, I'm pretty much saying this: your body, the subject of time as a linear going from past to present to future, it makes sense in front of your eyes, but behind your eyes, you as an advanced intelligence that you call yourself human are actually, your inner realms are not working like the outer realms. In the inner realms, it's like you're watching your body, and thoughts come and go, which implies that you're not your thoughts, but you can be them if you're oblivious or ignorant. Why do you think they say ignorance is bliss? Do you know why is it? And because when one is ignorant, they don't have to confront change. And pretty much like, people who can't confront change, what do they call them? They call them narcissists. But it's unavoidable, right? In reality, life goes forth and we choose, how to value it, to even care for it. So what I'm trying to say is that when I'm saying laughing at your failures like jokes from another life, it's like the person is in the present, they're remembering a moment in the past they failed, they realize they could have dodged it, or like it could have been so easy to get through that moment, but because they didn't know how, right, it was intense for them. And then they laugh at how like life was intense, like they laugh at how intense they thought life was when they were young. Like as you grow older, you laugh at it. It becomes funny how serious you took some things, you know. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that your body is in time, but your mind is giving the subjective value of time. So technically, there's a part of you that's aware, that you're aware, and it's kind of like, for most people, they associate this as like, okay, my mind is aware of my body, but guess what you think is your mind is actually like, it's kind of like, this is, I hope this doesn't, startle people, but soul is like the space where the mind is moving the body. In the Holy Quran, it says, Allah says, I created mankind and jinn kind for the sole purpose of worshiping me. That means you have, like some beings designed to just, be unconscious to existence, and like might sound bizarre, but for me, like squirrels, birds, like lesser animals, even insects, like, any sort of intelligent life force, lesser than human beings, they're kind of like, I'm not saying they don't have souls, but I want to say they're like NPCs. Okay. And this was a startling consideration, because there's this perspective in the Islamic sense that considers that, the unnecessary turns into dust, because what is necessary is that the soul of man tested. Okay. But how is it being tested? It's like this original soul created by this original creator was put into an non-original world, and when it kind of like tries to get clues of what it's supposed to do in this non-original world, it's to notice what, like, another way it can be interpreted, what it means, that mankind was designed by the system admin to acknowledge and praise the system admin. Praise doesn't mean just like, you ask for something, or you just compliment something. Praise means connecting with the higher attention. Do you know what I mean? This might sound bizarre, but it's like a cat coming in front of their owner, right, and staring at their owner, and in some sense, being in the presence of a higher entity. That means, for example, animals that are just in nature compared to animals that live with human beings, it's like there's something unique that happens. It's like the human mind has an ability to manufacture the essence of a phenomena through meaning. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that the clue is, like, okay, I'll give you an example. If somebody, like, I'm seeing this as a hypothetical playful scenario where like a simulated entity was having a conversation with truth, but the ultimate truth is beyond human eyes consideration. It would be as if, hey, is the purpose of this game of life to explore the edge of the world? And the answer is no, it's too big. Is the purpose of life to live forever? No, we were designed to at some point exit the system. Okay. Is the purpose of life just to have knowledge, to collect data? No, because you can never collect all the data to index it to come to some sort of accurate analysis. Do you understand what I mean? That means it's like, I'm not saying that academic patterns. Pretty much, I'm not saying knowledge doesn't have value, but knowledge is like soulless unless it's being used, unless it's being considered. So if they say, is the purpose to just access a giant library? No. Is the purpose of life just to build an advanced civilization, just to invent and create things? No. The purpose of civilization, sorry, the purpose of the human, has the human being been designed to understand what's happening? That's a yes. Okay. We are here to understand reality, and we do it in different ways. The title, points to how we understand reality by living through it, by tunneling through it day by day, and in some sense realizing who we are in regards to what we're aware of. To me, it's very interesting when I see different human beings. It's like every person is in their own room, their own booth of value creation. It's remarkable. Everything has a value because there is something that's valuing it. Okay, now we can't truly know what it is that's looking through our eyes and is aware of everything at the same time, because we're coming up with definitions as fragmented as parts of the system. You understand? That means at some point it's kind of like we say, where are we? If they ask us, where are you, human beings, we say we're in the world. But if they ask, where is the world? Does the world have a world it moves in? Do you know what I'm saying? As a human being, you're a creature in some sort of landscape. You're actually in two landscapes. There's an inner landscape and an outer landscape. The inner landscape, you have to try to quickly climb out of your own ego code and just in some sense notice that every moment can be evaluated from different points of view. Okay, what that means is you have a value, like you look at something, you look at a person, you have an opinion on them, and based on how many others have seen them, it's like there's that many opinions floating around. So what is laughing at the jokes from another life is actually the realization that this awareness that has been aware of your body changing, aware of your mind changing, it's the only thing that hasn't changed. Do you understand what I mean? It's like there's the statement that says change is the only thing that's not changing, but actually change is changing. It's the awareness to change that is not changing. Do you understand? So ultimately, we look at this giant system and we got to look at human beings and be like, what sort of micro and macro evaluations are they, in some sense, engaging with? And what does, like, the one of the biggest things, biggest questions that comes to me is that what does the humanity truly deserve? And suddenly I become curious in the sense that why have I been, I've been given an outer life in the present, in the year 2025, on May 15th. Okay. And at the same time, Do you know why is it that the human mind can notice the future before entering it? We have an ability to see possibility, okay? And that doesn't fall into place. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't go with the linear story of the world we're telling ourselves. Okay? That means why can we see something happen in a better way, but we're stuck in a non-better way of it happening? Why? Right? And I think soon the species will realize that it's kind of like whatever the population is, there's always, like, do you know what I mean? It's like the group is like, what is the group missing? Is it another member? No, it is another, it's like an update of itself. It's missing. You need to have an ability to laugh at yourself, and it's automatic, to be honest. You know why? Because it's not real anymore. That means, yes, I was once upon a time, I was 10 years old, for example. Okay. And I did something silly, for example. Okay. But I am no longer that who I was when I was 10 years old. I don't have the same body. I don't have the same emotional relationship with my world and reality. I don't have the same. Do you know what I mean? There's something different. Life is kind of designed to go forward, and as it goes forward, you get to see, new ways you could have moved. So it's kind of like your brain has a certain, let's say, a certain number of, like, right now, neural patterns. Now as it goes into the future, it's constantly experiencing new days, new neural patterns. Eventually it will never be the same. So there's something in humanity that is greater than its past, and there's something in humanity that's even greater than the present, because why can we consider the future? Like, why aren't we all living like birds? And do you know what I mean? Like, not just like lesser animals. Why aren't we just going into an ecosystem and like comforting it out? And what does luxury mean in the world? Luxury can be just defined as a comfort zone, right? And so the whole point is, were we designed in this world to be comfortable in it and not wonder about it, or were we designed to, wonder about it and in some sense realize the greater comforts of life? The greater luxuries of life are not physical, they are understanding. And that's something that it's like no money can buy. It's just how you've had an experience with reality to comprehend its movement. In the same way, like back in the day, hunters, before they hunted something, they were like scanning it, observing it, learning its movements and patterns, right? And then deceiving it ultimately, because that's really what it is. But in some sense, human beings cultivated an ability to study and concentrate. Okay. And at the same time, I'm telling you, I think everybody has this feeling at the back of like their mind and intelligence, like, yo, all right, guys, it just got disconnected for a second. I'm back. Anyways, where I was going with this was to just tell you about the intensity to life, and we outgrow the intensity, and we realize our ignorance in the past, because who we have become is has a clarity. Do you understand? Understanding. When you understand situations, you can't get nervous. It doesn't. You can't even get afraid, because you just see. You see you see the system's movement. Okay. For example, when you see a human being move, that's a biological system moving. when you see clouds move, do you know what I mean? That's in some sense an existential, a chemical system. I mean, ultimately everything is, right? It's kind of like, what do they say? They said this thing where, you know, it's like there's a spectrum. Okay, there's a spectrum, and it goes both ways. So what does this mean? That means it's like, and let's start from society. It's like what the sociologist couldn't answer, the psychologist, the philosopher, excuse me, yes, what the sociologist couldn't answer, the psychologist could answer. What the psychologist couldn't answer, the philosopher could answer. What the philosopher couldn't answer, or sorry, I'm getting this wrong. Okay, whatever. Let's say the philosopher, what the psychologist can't answer, maybe the philosopher can. Oh, sorry. What am I saying? Okay, let me start it. What the sociologist can't answer, the psychologist can answer. What the psychologist can't answer, um, in some sense, let's say, the scientist can answer. What the scientists can't answer, okay. Sorry, what am I saying? What the sociologist can answer, can't answer. Let's say the psychologist can answer. What the psychologist can't answer, the biologist can answer. The biologist can't answer, the chemist answer can answer. What the chemist can't answer, the physicist can answer. Now, what the physicist can't answer, the philosopher can answer. And what no human beings can answer is where we are right now. In no way get convinced that you're in some sort of equation that just needs one answer and it's done. You're in a living system. Think about it this way, that when you're communicating with other human beings, you don't act robotic. It's like there's emotion to the communication, right? Do you know what I mean? And so in some sense, it's like realizing that the mystery, or for all those spiritual people, let me say it this way, it's like the mystery of reality is having a living relationship with what is originally powering this, and it's accessible. And I thought, like, yo man, I'm laughing at my jokes like they're from another life, like I'm no longer who I was like years ago, and I can laugh at it. And then I think about it, yo man, am I gonna laugh at this moment from like years in the future? And then I think about it, oh my god, am I gonna laugh at my life, from the afterlife? And oh my god, am I gonna laugh after my afterlife, the afterlife of my afterlife? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm pretty much saying, I'm pretty much saying that there was this character. Okay, I saw this clip and it was like this incredible funk edit. Okay, and there's this Japanese comic book based, kind of like Marvel's, what it's like, Japanese. The show. It's this anime show called Naruto, and there's incredible, like, complex psychological, like, character development in the show. And there's these two characters that in the show they are the archetypes for sorry, there are two archetypes. There are these two characters. One is called Hashirama, one is called Madara. Okay, Madara. And so these two are in the show, in the let's say blueprint of the character development of the show. Madara is an avatar. He's the archetype of fearless chaos. and Hashirama is the archetype of fearless order, the greatest order. Okay, they're both in the show the strongest characters. Okay, and there's a moment where I think it's a scene from their past. This is like a very long kind of character development show, and there was this scene I saw where Madara and Hashirama are fighting, and Madara is like on his last, like he's about to like he's like fighting like crazy with Hashirama, and then and then Hashirama puts a sword through him. That means Hashirama kills him, but then he realizes that wasn't even Hashirama, it was a clone of Hashirama. Hashirama was so advanced. Okay? And there's this scene, and Madara is super advanced as a character because there's a scene where the dialogue just gave me goosebumps, where it's like his ego is living as fearless chaos till the end. And this is like so the sword from his back like is like there's a sword that's been pressed into him from his back, right? And he just it looks to like the Hashirama, like the clone, like he knows Hashirama's there, and he says, "You've changed, Hashirama." And then he dies, and right before he dies, he just fearlessly, chaotically says, "Darkness." And then he falls on the ground and dies, right? And there was such an intensity, just that in some sense, some beings, whether chaotic order, if they don't have fear, it's like full force through whatever. You understand? Like there was something about that scene that suddenly made me understand that it's not just good and evil here. There's a tons of geometry, and it's actually about character development and the attributes to an evolving humanity, regardless of whether we extract these attributes from fiction or nonfiction. Right? On some level, what's going on planet Earth is that everybody is living a fiction, a fictitious life, okay, in a non-fictitious world. Okay, and to be honest, that's what it means when we just give a value to ourselves. Why do you think so many people want to get famous? Like, have we ever looked at this psychology? And let me tell you why. Because it's a deep down urge that, what if I just exist to myself, I don't exist? What if when I exist to others, that's when I'm actually existing? Do you understand? And so it all comes down to the psychology of a human being, whether they want their value to come from the outer realms. They want to value their inner life based on the outer realm, or maybe your inner life already has value and it's giving the outer realms value. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, that scene was so incredible. Like I can't. Ever since I saw it today, to be honest, on like a clip, YouTube short. And that scene where Madara just with like a impressed with an impressed tone says, "You have changed, Hashirama." And then he suddenly, as if he's dying, he suddenly everything he sees, he says darkness, and then he falls. Like it's the way he said that was like so revealing of like where his inner eyes were, right? It's not really about branding human beings and then they have a value. The value of humanity is an effort. It's an effort of vision, and it's a sort of collective movement. Because if you notice, every human being is kind of being born, and they're living a life which is like to complete a to-do list self obsessively. Okay, I thought I had OCD. The species has an OCD to just fit in before it dies, but does it know where it's trying to fit in? Does it really know what is the value of reality and where the values are coming from? You know? So this means we're living at an era where if we can't trust our answers, we got to start asking questions. But now questions take us to a realization that the human being has limits. And once man can acknowledge his limits, perhaps he may notice the limitless. Anyways, Ultimately, I consider that we're all inside a simulated testing zone within a divine surveillance state. Consider in the same way I look at ants, there's a higher power that is beyond the world. Nothing in the world can define it or even compare to it. Do you understand? That means nothing in the simulation cannot compare to its author, to its originator, right? And so, because I consider that human beings can also be ants, and it's the most reasonable outlook, then man must have an approach to at some point consider, okay, what's the top of the hierarchy of ultimate power in reality? Do you understand what it means that life is a simulation? Is that it's like every person who thought life was just about survival is like, whoa, wait a minute, there's another page to the test. You know, it's the same. Ultimately, what our hearts expect from, it's like deep down what everybody wants is it's like you're always gonna see a future that's better, and you got to deal with it, and you'll always have come from a past that was not as good, maybe. Do you know what I mean? That means it wasn't as advanced. That means if somebody tells me, hey, do you want to go back, do you want to go into a time machine and go back and relive your childhood, I'll be like, no, because it really doesn't matter. It's all character development until the character can accept itself and start developing its world. But so many people are stuck still in just character development. That means they can't discriminate between what their mind is putting into the moment and what the moment actually is. If you can't discriminate with this, right, then if you can't like notice this, it's equivalent to like someone driving a vehicle that can't tell apart which is whose vehicle. Do you know? That means you can't tell the distance. It's, do you know what I mean? And it's, we have to, I mean, I don't want to say that the human mind is like a vehicle, but I want to say that it does, living life does require the same amount of caution. And if you ask yourself, for example, what is making like our, let's say, vehicle transportation systems all around the world functional, it's the simple ability that human beings accept that they must yield. Do you know what the concept of yielding means? That means anybody who's a narcissist probably shouldn't drive a car. You'll get into an accident because you need to learn to yield. That means you need to let others go forth. You need to suddenly realize, okay, this person driving this car beside me could be experienced or not experienced. And so that's the main point of it, that you begin to realize, similarly, you're driving your system in this life, and even though you station it as a character in a story, but really what it is it's awareness to content you're self classifying, to then realize your self classification is not all of reality. Yep. It's like right now your future self is way better than who you are now. What I mean by this is its probability. What I mean is that our minds generate probabilities to reality, and we can select from them, and then we act like that's us. But what you are is the recognition that in this massive, mysterious event, there is something to notice how incredible it is. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Auzu billah, shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Rabbi Gfirli, my Lord, forgive me. My Lord, forgive my species for all the sins that they are conscious and unconscious of doing. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. May the most advanced guide us to the most advanced potential of our being. That means people were not just designed to fail the test, they were designed also to ace the test. If you become fascinated with the system, you'll understand it in ways that just it being, like sometimes I look at educational systems and I'm like, these guys are just giving baby food. You know what I mean? Just like how a parent feeds a toddler baby food, they're feeding, past content to the present. And then they're like, okay, we educated you on what happened before. Now go figure out what you're going to do. You know what I mean? But in reality, they don't talk about the future. Like, I don't know, but if I was like a professor in a university, it'd be just like futurism 101, you know? And it would be the immediate realization that the future is being considered. That means meaning is kind of like semi your is like your kind of like your artwork, but the art and the paint and the stuff that generates the meaning is not you. Do you understand what I mean? That means it's kind of like the soul is painting meaning over the blank canvas of objective matter. Like, what does it mean when we say we like someone or we dislike? And all those people who are like, yo, we should just have utopic world peace. Why didn't God just create a perfect system? All right, guys, back to it. It disconnected. Adam and Eve were not angels, and they were not even jinn. They were not like demons. They were not beings made of smokeless flame. We were beings made of clay. We're like our own class of entity. Okay. And we're neither an angel, neither a beast in this human world, but we have capabilities to, in some sense, express the attributes of chaotic ignorance or divine order. And it's all about, like, think about it, what has really changed? It's the standard of living. The standards of living of human beings have changed. Now, the question is, what is the ultimate ideal? Why do they call it idealism? That means what is the a superior value guiding the systems, meaning rather than just an inferior element in the system giving the system meaning, right? Like, I understand systems thinking, we got to be holistic, but it's kind of like when you zoom out, all right, everything's happening on earth, but when you zoom in, oh my god, that unique thing is happening to that unique thing. So we got to kind of be conscious of the settings, you know. And you know how in video games you can adjust your settings, you can adjust your mouse sensitivity, screen brightness. Similarly, that's what you call attitude in real life. You're just adjusting your settings, you're readjusting your settings. And for example, the microphone of my laptop right now, it's one of those things where it adjusts, I think with AI or something, in accordance to the new MacBook, like the new Mac patch or whatever operating system. But the whole point of it is, it's like AI is allowing the microphone to constantly adjust to the sounds it's hearing. Well, guess what? In the future, our attitudes adjusting to every different scenarios of reality is very similar. Anyways, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. May God guide us to the direct way. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, it's like one of the biggest, most fascinating realizations I had was that before I was consciously Muslim and I truly became Muslim and accepted a system admin beyond the system, beyond the world, that has no partner in anywhere in manifestation, it's beyond it. To me, the fascination of truth's greatness, truth being more important than greatness. That means, would you rather be great in a simulation, or would you rather simply know the truth. And knowing the truth is a sort of greatness in itself, because what it's implying is that there's a simulation, but because it's a test, that means there's a way to pass the test, and that the way to pass the test is kind of like the main operating system to reality. So if there's a system admin to this existential system, it's test to the simulation, it is testing us in the simulation, and because it's a test, that means there has to be a way to pass the test. You understand? But the point is, we can't really know the test unless there's a sort of connection. Do you understand? It's like, unless I go live, people in cyberspace can't hear my voice. And unless you actually, it's real for you that there's a higher power to this, reality. And that higher power is not like, oh my God, is it an overlord? No. It's the difference between simulated and original power. Simulated and original being. God is the original being. The original is not simulated, so the simulation can't define it. So the species is being ushered to a new era where it has to recognize its outer and inner life are no longer the same. The ability of man's mind to see in, like we have way more of a greater ability to to envision the future compared to the past. To the past, they could envision like kingdoms and clouds. Human beings right now can start designing sky cities if they want to. I've been designing them in my lectures, in my writing, sci-fi writing. I'm like, okay, I don't have an engineering degree, but I can see in my inner realms. I can see how things can be better and how things can be worse. But then I ask myself, why am I seeing probabilities to one event? Because it's not just, it's, even though it is one event, like one character playing one game, but it's not just valued as one character in one game because there's so many different characters, right? It's kind of like we're living in a game that we're all agreeing to, and that's what society is. Okay. And yes, on to some degree, like, behaving in society normally is like learning the alphabet. But at the same time, once you ask yourself, what is the purpose of alphabet? Okay, it's to construct words. What is the purpose of words? To, in some sense, construct sentences. What is the purpose of sentences? To construct paragraphs. What are the purposes of paragraphs? To construct a book. What is the purpose of a book? To convey a film of reality to you. Anyways, thank you for listening. Every cell of my being, everything in existence was Muslim before I became Muslim. That was the fascinating realization. Everything that has been simulated cannot act like it doesn't remember the original creation of itself. That means there's a sort of awareness there, you know? There's a sort of acknowledgement there. Anyways, thank you for listening. Have a great night, evening. Yeah.